Praise God. We're going to be a lot of places, but we're going to start in Matthew 19. And actually, we're going to do this a little different. We're going to stand up and pray before we get started here. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come to you right now, Lord, asking you to touch this service, Lord, and your presence continue to be felt throughout. Lord God, that you minister to every individual here, Lord God, that they'll receive a special word from you. Lord God, this will be something that mends homes, that mends hearts, Lord, and we'll give you the praise and we'll give you the glory. Everybody says, Amen. I had this planned as a kind of two-part deal for this morning and tonight, but I forgot that it's Labor Day weekend. So, get comfy. We're going both right now. I've titled this, and this is different than I've ever preached. I'm going to stick really close to my notes because I wrote them, a lot of them, and I'm not usually a big note guy. I usually write a couple of pages, nothing sermon, and it's highlights, hit this, hit that. Here's a little, I might use the word goose, and that means tell a story about a goose. I've never told a story about a goose, but that's what I mean. But this, I wrote like 4 pages, so I'm going to stick close to my notes and today, so it's going to be a little different, but I believe this is big, y'all. This is really big. I think this is what the Lord wants. I titled the sermon, Making Your House a Home. The devil can't beat God. Right? It ain't that it's not a strategy thing. It ain't that he just hasn't come up with the right strategy yet. It ain't that he ain't hit him at the right time. It's none of that stuff. He just straight up can't beat God. Right? That's how that is. So what does he do? He attacks the church. And the church is home. He can't really beat the church. The bride of Christ, the true church. The devil can't really win there either. So what does he do is he attacks local churches, and he attacks them by attacking families. He attacks families. His best way to tear apart a church is to tear apart what it's made of, and that's families. I hear a lot of times it's crazy, but we're getting really close to the holidays. I don't know if anybody realizes that. I seen the deal that said X amount of weekends until Christmas. It was insane. So it was not very many. So holiday time's coming around the corner, and one of the big things I hear oftentimes as a minister or just in business around public is you hear 2 things. You hear, I can't wait for the holidays, get to see family that I don't ever see. I'm so excited about that. This is great. Yay. And then I also hear, I have to go and see family I never see. Yay. Right? You hear it both ways. The best thing to some people about the holidays is the worst thing to others, and that's family. Getting together. I got to go see my family. Like I said, I was going to make this morning tonight, but today we're going to study about families. I hope this makes some healing in some homes, but does something in your house. This is for everybody. If you're single, married, divorced, it don't matter. Everything, your job, everything, we all have one thing in common, 2 things in common. Number 1, Jesus loves you, right? That's a given. The second thing is we all have families, right? We may have nothing in common. Me and you may have not one thing in common, but we both have families, so we do have something in common. Today, that's what we're going to talk about today is families. I'm going to read off some statistics. It's going to be hard for me because I'm going to walk a lot. My legs will be tired because I got to come back. The enemy has altered the rule of what a family is. 52% divorce rate within 10 years of marriage. 44% had children in the household. This is a big number to me right here. 22% of children are raised by somebody outside of their home. 64% of Americans believe living together outside of marriage is a healthy alternative. Same-sex marriage is legal in pretty much every state. And what the world says a family is and what God says is 2 different things. Are you with me? This is going to be tough, y'all, so just bear with me and listen. This is good stuff, I think. I think this is really good stuff. Matthew 19, 4 through 7. Let's go there. Matthew 19, 4 through 7 says, "Haven't you read," he replied, At the beginning, the Creator made them male and female, and said, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two but one. Together, what God, I underline that word, God, has joined together, let man not separate. The only way a house can be a home is if God's in the center of it. I'm not a hater. I strive to show the love of God to everyone I encounter, but the Bible makes it clear living out of wedlock or in same-sex marriage cannot receive the blessings of a household with God's will. I can't talk firsthand about alcohol problems. I've never struggled with that. I can't tell you the battles of drug use. Okay, I've never dealt with that. I can't tell you a lot of stuff. I can't tell you extreme poverty. I've never lived in extreme poverty. But I can tell you of life in a split home. I've dealt with that. I can tell you about that. I know there's several here that can. I can tell you about what it's like. At a young age, I was like 3 years old. My mom and dad split up. And my mom battled a lot of stuff. I've shared a little bit with you. And I'm going to do so here today just to kind of set what we're moving forward here. I'm not asking for pity or anything like that with this. It's a testimony. My mom battled with a lot of things. At 3 years old, she split. I lived with my dad. I stayed with my dad. My mom battled drugs. She battled depression. She battled lots of things. She tried to find hope in men and a lot of other stuff. So every other weekend, I would go, and it was chaos from what I was used to. There was no order, no structure. You didn't know where you was going to be that night. You didn't know. Okay? So I lived in this, and I seen what it can be like. Guys, I lived every other weekend and 2 weeks out of summer in this, and it's made an impact on who I am. I ain't gonna lie, it has. But that's every other weekend and 2 weeks in the summer ain't a big deal. There's kids that live in this every day of their life. Don't know where they're going to spend the night. Don't know who's this person in my house today. What's going on here? Why is mom acting like this? Why is dad acting like this? Why is this going on? Why is that going on? What's happening here? They live in it every day. That's not God's perfect plan for kids, can I tell you that? Today, the key for the church, the key for reaching people, the key for living in God's will is in the home. Like I said, I didn't tell that for pity or anything like that. I just got a small piece of what the enemy has placed in so many people's lives. I know many homes are filled with physical abuse. I'm just going to say this, guys. This is a different kind of deal today. It's going to be pretty blunt. I'm just going to lay stuff out there. All I'll say on this is, I don't believe anyone with the perfect and unconditional love of Jesus in their hearts can angrily attack and beat a child or spouse. Nothing breaks my heart. Sarah worked at Kids First in Mountain View, and what it is, and it's like it's a government run where kids go and stay care. A lot of special needs kids and stuff like that. But she's seen countless abuses, beat up. Spouses come in and they've been beat up and bruised. That is not God's perfect will for a home. That is not God's perfect will for a home. That's not God's perfect will for anybody. And I'll repeat that again, and I ain't even afraid to say it. I do not believe anyone with the perfect and unconditional love of Jesus in their hearts can angrily attack and beat a child or spouse. I know also there's homes filled with mental abuse, which leaves scars every much as real as physical damage does. I read in a ministry magazine probably a couple of months ago that stated the tongue does more destruction than anything else. I believe many households are being destroyed by verbal abuse. Divorce is, like I said, we named it out there, divorce is like 50-something%, right? I mean, it's affected many. I'm sure everyone here can say they've been some way or another have probably been affected. You may not be directly in your home. You may say, I've been married to my spouse for 30, 40 years, or I married mine forever, or whatever. But somewhere around, you know somebody, right? Either it's you or it's somebody close to you or something. You know somebody. I want to tell you this today. I wrote this down because I think it's big. Grandparents, parents, if you have a home that is split, you know God's perfect will is for you to still love that person's soul that you're no longer married to, or that your child is no longer married to. When you tell a child that their dad or mom that's not in the picture is no good, you're telling that child that part of them is no good.
Amen.
When you, as a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle. And that is not God's perfect will for that child. Why is family so important? Let's go to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 11 says, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him up. But pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can only one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, listen to this, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. You are somebody's 2. Right? You are somebody's 2 or 3. Brothers, sisters, spouses, children, whatever you are, you're somebody's 2. And 2 better than 1. Show me a family centered and attached to the foundation that is Jesus. I will show a family that can overcome anything. I'm going to move now into marriage. Now, I know we have single, divorced, widowed, and you may be thinking that this part isn't for me. I've got this. I've done this, but things we're going to discuss are not only the keys God has given for marriage, but for any strong relationship. Okay. Psalms 127:1 says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, its builders labor in vain." This verse shows us the truth that every endeavor in life must be based on a relationship with Jesus Christ. Just like we talked about a while ago with the home, if you want a blessed marriage and not just living with someone that has the same last name, then God and the values of His Word must be the foundation your relationship is built on. And that starts with one thing. All the single folk is this: selection. I could go through it and I could say, who's been married the longest? And somebody would raise their hand and say, 263 years. Feels like. And I'd say, why did you marry so-and-so? And they would begin to tell why they did so. And it'll be things that they loved about them and still love about them. And all these things. Selection is big. I think selection is the most important part of a strong marriage. 2 Corinthians 6:14 says, "Do not be yoked together with unbelievers, for what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness?" Okay, I'm sure several in here can tell stories of how one member of the marriage led the other to Christ. Right? I've seen it. I've heard lots of stories about how people got married and one was not saved and one was. And the one that was saved, the Lord used them in a miraculous way, and the other one got saved, and praise God. Right? I know those have been things that have happened, and they're great. But can I tell you today, for every one story like that, there are 10 of the kind where one was a non-believer and the relationship became that way. 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, "Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good morals." Good character. So if you want a godly marriage, just the single folks right here, make sure you find a godly marriage. All through the Bible, you see stories of poor selection and the pain it causes. David and Bathsheba, and then David and Saul's daughter. When you have 300 wives, there's bound to be a handful of crazies in the mix. Right? And David had that. He had him a handful. We know Samson had Delilah. So selection is a key in any relationship. And that goes beyond marriage. In a friendship, selection is key. Pick people that's going to make you better. I'm not saying don't love everybody. Love everybody. But when you create that inner circle that God's meant for you to have, that 2 or more, that strong group that everyone needs to have, make sure it's people that make you better. That point you towards Jesus. Right? And His will for your life. anniversary. Big moment. They're sitting on the back porch. They weren't big goers and doers. And they're having kids came over and brought them cake, and they had a little 50th anniversary shindig. They kind of ease out in the back, sit on the porch, or watching the sunset. She said, "Would you do it all over again?" He said, "Yeah." She said, Am I still the beautiful woman you married?" He said, "Yeah." She said, "Am I still the best cook you've ever eaten?" "Yeah." She goes on all this and stuff, and she's just beaming with pride. She said, "Well, I just love you so much." He says, "All right, I want to go inside." He goes inside. The son says, "Dad, did you eat yet?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "But your plate's right here. It's full of food. There's no way you've eaten." He said, "Oh, I can't hear, so I just replied, yeah, to everything." He said, "I'm hard of hearing. I just replied yes." Years of good marriage advice. So the key to a godly marriage is this: husbands being what the Bible says husbands should be, and wives being what the Bible says wives should be. So let's start with the roles of a godly wife. Sarah, you hear me all right? I'm just going to kind of use that here. Wife, 3 roles: love, respect, and assistance. Titus 2:4 says, "Then they can train the younger women to love their husbands and children." Every strong house has a loving wife inside. Not a temporary love or a conditional love, but a love that holds the house together through thick and thin. Second thing I wrote is respect. Verse 33 talks about respecting your husband. But I want to talk about another route in this for wives is respect your role as wife. Here's what I think happens oftentimes in this world we live in, that it's all social status and how much you've done and where you at and what kind of job you got. I think like the biggest job in the world, wife mom. Toughest job in the world, wife mom. Most difficult job in the world, wife mom. Most important job in the world, wife mom. I just believe that. Don't ever diminish that role in your life. Don't ever think, well, all I am is wife and mom. That kind of can happen sometimes. The world tells you, you have a college degree. Oh, you have this. Oh, you have that. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? If you're a good wife, a great wife, a godly wife, and you're a great mom, a godly mom, kudos, you've got the best career there is, and you're thriving in it. Do you hear me today? Respect that. Respect that. Genesis 2:18 said, "It's not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." Next thing I wrote down was assistance. Wives, where we are weak, you are strong. Help us. Your assistance keeps the house in order. God didn't make husbands for wives, but wives for husbands. Okay, now we're going to Ephesians 5:25. I think I got this marked. If not, I may have to need some assistance from the back. Next thing is this. Now we're going to go to husbands. I went over wife real quick. Y'all are awesome. Y'all are great. Let's go on. I'm not done. That 50-year deal, I'm rooting for it. Now let's talk about husbands. I'm going to tear into y'all. Ephesians 5:25 says, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by washing with water through the word." I'm going to start by saying this. I believe the main problem with the lack of families, I'm just going to be honest, is husbands quit being husbands. Ephesians 5:23 says, "For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior." God established us to be as a head of the home. But with that comes a great responsibility. We can't just go around and say, "I'm the head of the home." We have to perform it. Talk is cheap. We gripe about how some women rule their house, but a lot of times it's because a guy won't do it. It's kind of quiet. We as husbands must adhere to the 3 P's. Pray, provide, protect. Pray for God to lead you and your family. and your family in His will. Provide for them in their needs. Love and kindness is a biggie. And protect your family from the sin that tries to eat up the home. For marriages to succeed, and the D word to no longer be a part of over half of our marriages in the U.S., we need godly men and women putting God first and showing His love to each other. 1 Corinthians 4:8, we all know it. Love is kind, love is patient, love is all these things. We read it at nearly every wedding. I think every wedding I've done, I've read that. If you can insert your name in the place of love, hey, Kendall is kind. Kendall is patient. Kendall is awesome. If you can put that in place of love in your home, your house will be home. Next I want to talk about, I'm going to fly through this really, because this is big. I want to hit on this and then I'm going to close. Next is parenting. This ain't just for parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, anyone involved in shaping the life of a child. This is you. This is for you. Billy Graham famously said, children will invariably talk, eat, walk, think, and act like their parents. Give them a target to shoot at, give them a pattern they can see clearly, and you give them something that gold and silver cannot buy. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. This is big right here. I think this is something. Johns Hopkins University, big time school, Ivy League. I couldn't have got in. They did a 5-year study on adolescent behavior. Here is their findings. This is not a Christian school. This is just a normal private institution. It said if a child lives with criticism, he learns to condemn. If a child lives with hostility, he learns to fight. If a child lives with ridicule, he learns to be shy. If a child lives with shame, he learns to feel unworthy. If a child lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If a child lives with encouragement, he learns confidence. If a child lives with praise, he learns to appreciate. If a child lives with fairness, he learns justice. If a child lives with biblical values, he learns faith, love, and friendship. That's a public university. That's not that's not anything other than that. So before we crank up on talking about the keys to being a great role model, let's start by saying it's not easy, but we all have to try. I think that was crazy that Sister Lynn did that. I didn't say anything to her. That was the Lord. Imagine the nativity scene there. Joseph and Mary, here they are, just newlyweds. And then here comes Jesus, right? The Son of God. They knew that. They knew that, and God told Mary, and Joseph knew, and they knew it. And now here they are, first-time parents, newly married, and they're raising the Son of God. Can you talk about pressure? But if God, praise God, but if God trusted a man and a woman to raise His son, you know we can raise it. We can raise ours, right? Having the ability to mobilize over a sacrifice is also a greater reward. So let's look and see what the Bible says about children and parents in Ephesians 6:1-4. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Get my Bradley back in here. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. In this whole thing where it says, I'm starting with children obey, there's God's words to kids, obey your parents. This is a bit different than what the world says. Wouldn't it be a different world if obedience ruled the land? Obey also in Hebrew here means respect. And hey, by the way, Paul uses the word here for children is the word teknia, which doesn't mean little ones. It just means anyone who is yet to receive their father's reward or inheritance. When does, in the Bible days, when did somebody receive their parents' inheritance? When they died, right? So what Paul is saying here is, hey, if your parents are still living, respect them, right? Respect them. It don't matter if you're 8 or 80. If your parents are still living, respect them. Cindy, you know, You want to hit him for me? Say, hey, did you hear that? Or are there any other parents in here want to hit? Yeah, did you hear that? Obey him. Obey him. Cindy, go ahead. You do it. I won't say nothing. I guess she cut her eyes. I'm stop right there. I'm going to wake up here. Praise the Lord. There's no ways where you quit honoring your parents. But how do they learn obedience? Not on their own. When Bradley was born, I didn't teach Bradley to breathe or to swallow. Right? He just pulled that off amazingly. But obedience is taught. How? Discipline. I'm not going to key in on a method, but my dad used trees and switches. Discipline teaches not only obedience, but that there are repercussions for not. By example, do you show an obedient life to your parents, to God? What takes priority in your home? Is it ball games, events, your job? It bothers me the amount of kids and teenagers that refuse to come to church and parents come without them. Throughout the week at school, they are fed the junk of the world, but they are never spiritually fed. I got this. This was cool. There's a family deal. It's kind of what spurred this whole thought. I read a family magazine the other day, the ministers on the deal. I don't know what to say. But 66% of our teens spend less than 30 minutes a week talking to their parents about life. And that can be anything. Life. 1 in every 4 beers is consumed by someone under 18. 73%, grab hold of this, 73% of recovering alcoholics say they started drinking due to introduction in their own home. Moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, bring your kids to church. Church is an option. Joshua said, for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Obedience. Now, verse 4 in here says, fathers do not exasperate their children, instead bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Many say this refers to both parents, and it can. Do not provoke your child. 10 ways you can provoke your child. Smothering them, never allowing them to take a chance. Favoritism. This is out of this deal I read. Favoritism, favoring one kid over the other. Comparing your kids with one another. Pushing their achievements beyond reasonable bounds. Discouraging them. Failing to make a child feel wanted. Always treating them like they're intruding on your life. Using love as a tool for reward or punishment. Failing to let them grow up in a normal life. Physical or verbal abuse. Teasing or taunting. And here, in this scripture here, he ends with the verse with a positive. It says, we are to nurture them. And here's what's great. And I'm closing with this. What's awesome is, though we mess up, we have a heavenly parent that is absolutely perfect. He teaches, he disciplines, he loves, he nurtures, he sacrifices a lot. So here's the deal, guys. Labor Day weekend, we're not having church tonight. I have a little bit of homework, right? I'm a homework guy to do in school. Never really gave much out. As far as this goes, I'm going to give you a little homework. Go home tonight. Humble yourself before your kids. Humble yourself before your spouse. Hug them, love them, and affirm them in Jesus. And I promise you, your house will be a home. Today, this was big for me. As I studied this, I said, I never had really preached anything like this. And this was different, but I believe it's needed. I believe it's necessary. If you want to see your kids grow up and be excited about Jesus, you got to be excited about Jesus. If you want to see your kids grow up and have a good life and make good decisions, you need to make good decisions. If you want to grow old with your spouse, you need to love them like Jesus says love them. And I promise you, you're going to live a great and happy time. Is everything going to go perfect in every aspect of your life? No. But you're going to have that strand that can't be broken. You're going to have that strength that won't falter. You're going to be able to overcome anything because you've got a core. Founded in Jesus, built around the people you love, and you're going to make it. And they're going to make it. And we're all going to celebrate that today. Let's all stand.